What's going on, everybody? Today we're talking with Tim Resch, a man whose Smithsonian Magazine called the last true mountain man. Tim's been a professional outfitter and hunting guide for the last 30 years, currently lives off the grid outside Estes Park, Colorado as the owner and operator of Estes Park Outfitters. All right, we're here today with Tim. Tim, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about, the story of Tim from the beginning.
All right, from the beginning.
Yes.
First, there were dinosaurs.
Yes. Perfect. I can vouch. This is true. This is true. As a historian, yes.
Yes. So, bottom line was, I saw the movie Jeremiah Johnson when I was 13 with my father in upstate New York.
Great movie, Tim. My favorite movie, by the way, of all time.
Yes, and that moved me like there's no tomorrow because it came out in 1972. I saw it in 1973. My dad and I watched the movie in upstate New York, and then that was on a Friday. And then on a Monday, the following Monday was Labor Day. So on Labor Day weekend, there's always a big air show in Cleveland for planes and all that stuff. So my dad was a private pilot, and he always took the family to the air show. So that particular year, I'd been doing this for a few years, and I didn't want to go. I was hanging out with a buddy of mine. And I said, Dad, I don't want to go to the show. Can I just meet you at Grandma's house for Labor Day dinner that afternoon? He goes, you bet. So I said, okay, great. And so I went out and hung out with my friend. We were rafting on rafts down a little creek that goes into Lake Erie, and got to my grandma's house at 4 p.m. like I was supposed to, got there, and there's all kinds of reporters and people surrounding me. Like, how do you feel? What are you going to do now? And I'm like, what's going on? And come to find out later that night, because back in 73, they didn't have a lot of, there was no cell phones. So come to find out my family was hit by a car and killed watching the air show. So now I'm a 13-year-old boy and on my own. And so my real mom left when I was 5, and she went to New Hampshire. I never really got along with her because she was kind of another story. But it was either stay in Ohio, and I was doing a lot of wild child 13-year-old boy stuff. So it was either stay in Ohio and go to the detention home or move up to New Hampshire with my real mother and my stepfather, Hank, who was a really cool 23-year retired Marine Corps gunnery sergeant, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, all that stuff. And he really was the best thing that could have happened to me. Now, I moved from a farmland, Ohio, up to Ivy League Dartmouth College. He was working for the Computer Center for Dartmouth back in 73, which is these mainframe computers, gigantic stuff, nothing like what we have today. And but he was the best thing that could have happened to me. My mom and I, you know how that goes. But so I went to University of New Hampshire because I graduated from high school, and I wanted to be an enforcer because I loved being in the woods. I loved hunting. I loved everything about the woods. And the Jeremiah Johnson movie really moved me to that. And so in the Jeremiah Johnson movie, when Indians killed his family, it was kind of like my deal with my family. So I went out to Colorado in 1979. And when I graduated high school from New Hampshire, 88 kids in my class, 24 out of the 88 were living in Boulder. And they're all ski bums, and I love to ski. So I ended up coming out there and staying with a bunch of friends and, hey, stay here, hey, stay here, hey, stay here. So bottom line is I ended up staying in Boulder. And I got a job at Celestial Seasonings, that herb tea company in Boulder, and met my future wife, Carol, wonderful gal. And we bought a house because at that time, Celestial Seasonings got bought by Kraft, and they gave us employee stock ownership. And so we got a bunch of money, and I bought a house in Lyons just outside of Boulder, and me and my wife were living there. Then I had another guy that became my best friend named Dennis, and he had horses. So he was always letting me borrow this horse. And I was riding all this country for the next 5 years. I'm riding all this country around here, learning about the area, and figuring out that I do not want to work at Celestial. I don't want to work in a factory. I want to be a mountain man. So I told Carol that I really wanted to get out of there and go to Montana and go to outfitter school. And she was hemming and hawing about that. Not sure what we were going to do. But, you know, we're young kids. We're 20, at that time, 26 years old. And then one day, Dennis, the guy that turned me on to the horses, shows up at my house. And he's like, hey, Tim, I said, "Hey, Dennis, what's up?" Because he knocked on my door, and I was like, he goes kind of sheepishly. He says, "Hey, Tim, is Carol here?" My wife. And I said, "Yeah, why?" He says, "Well, Tim, I'm in love with her." And I come to find out that when I'm borrowing his horse, he's off fooling around with my wife.
What?
And I was like all bummed out about that. But after losing my family, nothing was going to rock my world that much. I was on a track. I was going to go. I want to be a mountain man. So I said, "Come on, Dennis, outside." I said, "Dennis, you're my best friend. You know, because of you, I'm learning all this country. Thank you for letting me use this horse. I love this idea. I don't want to work at Celestial. I don't want to work in a factory anymore." I looked at him and I said, "Look, you're the head mechanic for US West down in Denver, which now is AT&T. I said, you get me 4 new tires for my truck and give me that horse. I'm out of here." So I traded my wife for 4 tires and a horse, and I went to Montana and started my outfitting career. And I got professional at 27 years old. I got a new job down at Telluride. I was running my first business was Silverado Outfitters. And I was based out of Durango, Silverton, Telluride, and I ran pack trips and hunting camps and all that stuff, and just fell in love with the San Juan Mountains. The San Juan Mountains in Colorado are the most incredible. And they had the old train, the old steam engine train from the 1880s, running from Durango up to Silverton. And I was there in 1989, which was 60 years earlier. Wyatt Earp was in Silverton. And it was like the Old West, and you'd always hear all these train whistles and all the Old West. And I'm on the saddle. I'm just thinking, my God, this is everything. So I started that career up, and then I rode the San Juans a lot. We used to do pack trips from Durango to Telluride for the Bluegrass Festival, and I've got pictures and stuff about that. But that's kind of how everything got going.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Tim, do you have that was great, by the way. What are some of your favorite stories you've had from was it 33 years of being a guide?
No, there's thousands.
You have some favorites?
Well, there's one time where I did a horseback ride in Silverton because people come up on the train, and the train is built in the 1880s, and they're there for 2 hours, 1 hour for lunch, 1 hour for whatever you want to do. And then there's 3 trains a day coming into town. So it brings 900 people a day. And so this one time, this gal left her purse at the barn, and I found it, and I saw the train pulling away, leaving, going back down to Durango. And she's hanging off the back of the train on the caboose, screaming that she left her purse. And the train doesn't move that fast, so it's like it's chugging away. And I remember going in there, finding a purse in the barn, and then throwing my leg over the saddle and galloping down the tracks and handing off the purse to her on this train built 200 years ago or whatever, and laughing my ass off about the Old West. I mean, that was a pretty funny one.
That's awesome.
I'll never forget that day. Yeah.
Oh, that's
so
great.
A lot of those. I mean, a lot of the just backcountry stuff. I mean, a lot.
Yeah. Did you have any? That's a great story. Did you have any close calls at all over that time? Surely you have with
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
I mean, with
me and
everything
my
from
partner,
animals
Ron
and nature.
Bricker. Yeah, Ron Bricker and I were partners. He was 44, I was 28. He brought me in under his business, which was now called Silverado Outfitters, named after the movie from Silverado with Kevin
Good flick.
Costner, who's
Yeah.
now doing Yellowstone. And I'm trying to get on that show.
Great
Probably
show,
won't happen.
by the way.
It'd be fun. Yeah. But
I was actually
we're coming
watching
down
it
to the
last night, by the way, Tim.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I've seen everything, I mean, of the show, and I got a friend that's really good friends with Kevin Costner, and he wants me to meet him. So maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. But
Yeah.
wouldn't it be fun if we got a good packer? Because I've been a mule packer forever. And but one day we're up on our hunting camp, and we had to ride down out of the mountain, and we had to find a back way out of our camp because there's a one-way road in and out. But if it snows, you can't get the truck and trailer out. So we had to figure out how to get out of the mountains and drop straight off the mountain, which happens to bring you down to the railroad tracks for the old Silverton Durango train. And we did that one day to find a back way out in case we ever got snowed in. And we rode down to the tracks, hit the tracks, and now I know that there's 3 trains a day. And my partner, who's older than me, I said, because we had nowhere to go. It's just like river, tracks, and a cliff of rock. So we had to ride the tracks for about a quarter mile. And I felt really uncomfortable about that. I said, Ron, what if the train's early? What if the train gets down here first? We're pinned. We can't jump in the river because it's like a 12-foot drop. You kill the horse. And he looked at me and goes, oh, don't worry about it. What if it's late? I thought, okay, what the hell? I'm 27, you're 44. So, all right. So we rode down the tracks. And all of a sudden, around this blind corner, I see this big ass headlight of the train coming down at us. And the only way out was to gallop straight towards the train because there was an offshoot of dirt and sand beach on the left. But we had to beat the train to that spot or we were going to get pinned and run over by the train. Well, we didn't make it. And we stayed on the inside of the track, but there's probably about 10 feet of cliff rock wall and the track. And we're sitting there with 3-4 pack horses and us in the saddle. The horses are pinned between the train and the rocks, and they're rearing up and they're freaking out as the train goes by. Otherwise, we're going to be dead. And bottom line was,
you're still in the saddle.
All the guests on the train are waving at us. They're like, "Oh my God, this is so cool!" I'm like, "No, you don't understand. We're about dead." So the train goes past. Nothing bad happened. I'm looking at Ron, my partner, saying, what if it's late? What if it's late? What if it's early? I said, "You son of a bitch! You could have got me killed." So that was a funny day. That was a close call. We almost died that day.
And you were, just to clarify, Tim, you were on the saddle, like the horse was.
Oh, I was in the saddle.
You were in the saddle and everything.
Between the train and the cliff. I was in there with 2 pack horses, and everyone's losing it.
Oh man, I love the tourists. I can understand that, having lived in Colorado for a long time.
God, this
I get
is so beautiful. They thought it was so cool. Oh my God, did you plan this? No. Of course we didn't. So we made that.
They're putting on a show. Yay.
Yeah. It's like a Tombstone and everyone down there with their dress up. But we looked like that. So that worked out.
Clearly. Barely. But yeah. Yeah. Did you have any, I was wondering about anything with the animals. Did you have any bear encounters? Do you have any cougars or anything like that in your time?
Well, a mountain lion ate my last dog. It was a Brittany Spaniel, a bird hunter. I mean, I had liver and white Brittany's, and I was up guiding hunters one time, and actually I don't guide. I just get up on the rock and have my guides out below, but I get on this high rock and I go up there every morning for 20 years at the same rock. I'd watch the sun rise and the sun set from this rock for 20 years, and I'd seen many, many things. And this one day, my dog would always go with me because I don't have hunters. I can bring my dog with me. And her name was Anna Banana. And she was a beautiful 3-year-old Brittany, liver and white Brittany Spaniel, French Brittany. And we got up to my rock, we glassed, and, I'd walk back down to the ATV, which is like a 5-minute walk down where I can get to the ATV. And she was always there before I get there because, bird dogs, they quarter. They go zig and zag and they're looking for stuff. Well, she got on the tracks of some deer and she was sniffing that out. Well, there was a mountain lion tracking the deer, and then Anna Banana got between the deer and the cat jumped and just ate my dog. And I got down to the ATV and she's always there and she wasn't there. I was like, oh, shit. So I walked back up to the last place I saw her, and I saw her tracks. Then I saw the cat tracks and the deer tracks, and then I saw a puff in the snow, and then no more dog tracks. So the cat pounced on my dog and took her off. So I didn't have a dog for 11 years because I don't have any kids. So it was just like a child. And now I was given, 11 years later, I was given a border collie who I have now, Hank. Hankster the Prankster, and he's an amazing mountain dog, but that was a sad day.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. My dad has a great story of hunting in southern Colorado where the guide had a small, I don't know if you consider it a train. I think he only had 2 or 3 animals, but maybe that constitutes a train. But he was hauling up a propane tank on one of those mules, and somehow the mule bumped the tank on a tree and the tank started hissing, and apparently the mule thought it was a snake, and that was the end of that. And that thing just took off and just ran off into the woods, and they spent an entire day trying to basically get this thing and put it back in line. Did you have any?
Are good, but when you hear hissing, they're not going to go for that.
Yeah. Do you have any instances that you recall where because you were primarily packing animals, right? You used to work.
I was always packing mules. I worked for the government Forest Service and the Park Service packing mules. And one day we were up in Idaho, and we had to pack in some bridge planks, and one of the mules just flat out died on the trail. And so we had to come back in because you can't pack a mule out. So we came back in with dynamite and blew the mule up. So we'll be on the trail. But when we did it, all the meat of the mule was everywhere. And I came back in like later, and there was those.
Oh, Tim, you're breaking up a little bit.
The mule up is like a dent in the earth on the trail. Sorry,
Tim, you're breaking up. You just said, sorry, I lost you on the video. You said, so you had to blow it up with dynamite. Now, sorry, if you don't mind picking up.
Yeah, then we came back like a week later to go back in with some more stuff. And now there's this indentation in the earth where we blew the mule up. And the meat bees were there. And so when we rode by it, the meat bees came over and started stinging the mules. And that was a hell of a rodeo. But no one died, which was really good. But yeah, that was another day.
Oh man, I can listen to these stories all day, Tim. Keep them coming. What else you got?
Well, I don't know. A lot of them. I've driven a lot of teams of Belgians and stuff. I did sleigh rides and horseback rides and stuff. And this one time I got this job at this lodge, and I was in charge of their whole horse operation. And the guy that left, knowing all the horses, didn't share any of the information. So I didn't know any of the horses, any of their personalities and all that. So there was a head wrangler still left there named Doug. And he was kind of slow, but a really good guy. And so I first got the job, and I had to do sleigh rides. And so I said, Doug, go get the team harnessed up. I'll meet you at the bottom lodge with the guests, and I'll take the sleigh and do the ride. So I did that. Got the guests at the front lodge, and they're standing on the steps waiting for the sleigh to show up. And so I'm on this front lodge. It's got this long, level front face, and then off to the right there's a road that comes from the corrals. Then off to the left there's a road that goes back up towards the corrals onto the sleigh trail. So I was there waiting with the people and waiting for Doug to show up, and I started hearing all this commotion off to my right, and I hear, whoa, God damn it, there's lots of swearing, and I was like, all of a sudden I see the sleigh and Doug and the team coming ripping around the right side of the lodge, right into the parking lot, and the sleigh does a power slide across the parking lot and hits like 3 or 4 cars and smashes everything. There's hubcaps and windshield wipers and headlights. All this stuff is laying on the ground, and all this commotion and wreck everywhere. And then he kept going. The sleigh is deteriorating as he hit everything, because it's all made of wood. And then he goes around the left side and disappears. It's all quiet. And I didn't know what to make of it, but I had guests with their wide eyes looking at me. And I looked at him and I said, oh, that was the advanced ride. Your sleigh's coming up next.
Oh, that's good. That is good.
Yeah, that was a good one. But in reality, the sleigh was trash. We didn't have a second sleigh, so it was like a real mess. But that's another day.
Man, there's an author. He's a wilderness author from Canada named Andy Russell, who used to write back in, I think, like the 1960s, 1970s, maybe even a little bit earlier than that. But your stories sound unbelievably reminiscent of a lot of his stories, because he used to pack mules everywhere. Yeah. Like that's, yeah. And he did a lot of hunting in British Columbia. He packed mules, but a lot of your stories, yeah, they're resonating. They're making me think back to to Andy Russell. He has a great book called Trails of a Wilderness Wanderer, which I've recommended on my YouTube channel quite a bit for people to check out. But I'm sure you could compile some of these stories together, Tim. And
I got a zillion of them.
Well,
yeah, there was one time I was packing for the Park Service, and we had to go up onto what's called Flat Top Mountain, which is the only at that time, the east to west Rocky Mountain National Park, from Estes Park over to Grand Lake. It was the only horse trail left. And I had to pack, I packed for a lot of people, trail crew, archaeologists, geologists, rangers, special projects, whatever you needed. I had 30 head of mules, and we would take whatever you need into the backcountry. So this one day I had to go for a couple of archaeologists. They wanted to get up on top of Flat Top Mountain. So no worries, I got probably 5 or 6 mules I had loaded down with all their gear. We'd show up at the barn every day, and there was just like a pile of gear and then a note, usually written on a napkin, saying, okay, this stuff's got to go here or there, and we'll meet you there, and we'll just tarp the stuff off if you're not there in time, and we'll get it. So I had my mules loaded, and I'm heading up to Flat Top. So on the way up, an old packer trick, which you don't really want to exaggerate or exploit, but sometimes your loads don't ride right. On a load of a mule, they got to be balanced. And I'm usually within 1 pound, because you don't want any drama, period, when you're on the trail. So this one day I had this one load that was kind of shifting to the left. And
oh, Tim, sorry, you're breaking up again, if you can hear me.
Caused everybody else to get all kinds of, squirrely and all that. So sometimes when that happens, and ideally you pride yourself on not having that happen, but sometimes it does. So I'm riding and I'm going up the trail, and my first mule behind me is named Pete. He's a big mule, 17.2, big mule. And he loved me, but he's hated everybody else, but he's a really good mule. So we're riding up the trail, and I see his load shifting to the left. So one of the packer tricks is you stop and you pick out a few select rocks and you put them on the right side to balance your load out, a little ballast. So I did that, and then off I go. And I get up on top of the flat top where I was supposed to tie off. Well, there's no place to tie off. I was supposed to stop at this one spot and drop off all their stuff. And so I get up there, and I all of a sudden I see there must have been 50 women, and you're in your Park Service uniform. You got your badge on. You look badass. Cool looking packer. Oh
and
my God.
You're riding a horse too, right?
I'm riding a horse and packing about 6 mules. So I get up close and I see all these girls. They all have cameras. Come to find out that they're all in some photography class with some other instructor. And they're seeing me ride up to them. They're snapping pictures left and right and yada, yada. So I get up there and I ride right into them, because they're standing right where I need to offload. So I get up there and I get off my horse, and they're taking pictures like there's no tomorrow. And I feel like pretty cool,
Yeah.
and start offloading. So the first mule I offload is Pete. And the side that I offload has got all these rocks. So they're looking at me and taking pictures, and I'm quiet and just untying my load. And then I reach in the bag and I start throwing rocks over my shoulder to get rid of this stuff. And this one girl couldn't help herself. And she's like, "You're packing rocks up here?" And I looked at her and I was all cocky. And I said, "Lady, how do you think the Rockies got here?"
I like it.
That was
Oh, that's good.
So we had a lot of fun. We laughed and joked about that. But yeah, a lot of that kind of stuff. I mean, an uneventful day packing is a very successful day. No drama.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, in Andy Russell's book, when he talks about packing, he talks about how he had a dog that would accompany the pack trains, and sometimes the dogs would get frustrated with one of the mules, and one of the mules had a very short sort of temper. And I can't remember the exact location of the book, but the dog is going after the mule, and the mule keeps kind of warning the dog, and eventually he said, I just watched it. It just kicked that dog, and that dog just flew like 20 feet, just wham, and knocked the dog clean out. And he said, sure enough, that dog came back, like hours later, came to and caught back up with the pack train, and never came close to that mule ever
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's
wonderful,
wild.
isn't it? They get smart after a while.
Yeah, no harm, no foul.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, it's interesting. I've ridden a mule a couple times. I don't have a lot of experience with it, but I've heard a lot of good stories about sort of how they can kind of stop and discern things. They look at the trail. They're careful with their footing, and yeah, it
Oh yeah.
sounds pretty cool.
The old man told me when I first started packing mules, he goes, Tim, never worry about a mule kicking you. And I
No?
paused and thought about it. I said, why not? He goes, they don't miss.
So if you get kicked, well, it is what it
No,
is.
they'll set you up for years. If they don't like you, they'll wait for that right time. But I never had that problem. I've had a lot of fantastic mules, and
Good.
and they're amazing. They're the best thing in the world. I can't say enough about them. So many, oh, and they can carry. I mean, if you ever get to come out here sometime, I'm on one side of the house. I'm renting out the bed and breakfast side on the other side of my house, but I got mule saddles from World War II up there. I got one of the most original pack saddles from the U.S. Forest Service from 1915. My other side of my house is like a museum. It's really, really beautiful.
Yeah,
And it's
Tim,
all
I'm sorry,
backcountry
go ahead.
horse stuff. Go ahead.
Oh, I was sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. As you were mentioning this, though, I watched a couple videos on YouTube about Estes Park Outfitters and you kind of showing some things in your house. And it sounded pretty interesting. Do you mind telling people a little bit about kind of how you came to acquire this property? Because like, didn't you originally say that you wanted to buy this place and then you ended up eventually owning it?
I rode by this place in 1985 with my best friend Dennis, who ended up taking off with my wife. Well, we saw this place. It was just a foundation. It was just a foundation at the time. And I was like, who
Okay.
gets to build back here? I was so mad because I thought we were in the middle of the wilderness. But come to find out, this guy named R.D. Nolan, somehow there was a land trade from the early 1900s. The Forest Service wanted some property down in Estes Park Township, and they traded this 20 acres of private land in the middle of 33,000 acres of national forest. Well, I ended up hiring this guy's son back in the late 90s to be my camp cook at my hunting operation. And he said, you got to come up and see my dad's place. And when I rode up there with him, I said, oh, I've been here before. And then we did this for like 5 or 6 years. And then the father came to me and said, Tim, do you want to buy my property? And actually, I was having margaritas that night at a friend's place. And I said, can I call you back? Because I knew that I wanted to talk shop, but now's not the time.
Yeah.
And so I woke up a week later in the middle of my night sleep, and I said, holy fuck, I forgot to call RD. So I called him the next day. It's like, RD. He goes, yeah, God damn it. You want to buy the place or don't you? I said, you bet I do. So then we worked out the deal, but I bought this place in 2003, and it was just a summer shack when I got it. Now it's a complete lodge with all the fixings and satellite internet, satellite TV, satellite radio, cell phone service. I have a corral here that'll hold 6 horses comfortably, and I'm switching out of the hunting thing to say, bring your own, because I love riding, bring your own horse, and it's a BYOH, bring your own horse, and I have a lodge here, and your horses, I feed your horses, I water your horses, I clean corrals daily, and then I can ride with you because I'm not, quote, guiding anymore. You're paying to stay on my land, but I've got thousands of miles of trails right out the door here. So, and I know a lot of it. I've probably got over 70,000 miles in the saddle so far.
Wow.
So, I ain't done yet. But
that's awesome.
yeah, it's a really, really cool transition from the hunting operation now to this horse-friendly bed and breakfast, if you will. But I don't cook breakfast. You guys just bring your own stuff. It's got a full kitchen, all that stuff. But yeah, all the stuff on the other side of the lodge is just all kinds of cool history, real cool history.
Yeah, I saw in one of your videos, you even have saddle stools at your bar.
Oh yeah,
in your lodge. I thought that was
yeah.
pretty neat looking. I love it.
One of those saddles is my park saddle. I've got 12,000 miles in that saddle, and it's sitting at the bar. Another saddle was given to be my first partner, and next year it'll be 100-year-old saddle, and I still use it for hunting if I was hunting, but I've got it's really cool history.
Yeah. So do you have any horses there? So like when you have groups coming up,
I got
Do you
my
have
horse.
you have your horse, but they have
My
to bring
horse
their
here,
own horse.
Stanley Dude Manley.
Stanley Dude Manley. I like it.
Stanley Dude Manley. He's
What
really
kind
cool.
what kind of a horse is Stanley?
He's sort of a Morgan. See if I can find you a good picture. Maybe I can show this to you. That's me and Stanley Dude Manley.
That's a pretty good picture there, Tim.
Whoa. Yeah, watch this one. This is me I was just turning 60. Oh, wait, where is it? This is me when I had to did a film documentary for some film people out of Germany. And this horse was like my favorite guy. His name was Bandera. And he, oh, there's Stan. There you go. Oh. There.
It's a good looking steed.
Stanley Dude Manley.
I like
He's
it.
he's the dude. And then this shot, I was doing this documentary for, who were they? Germans. They were all Germans. Them sons of bitches. There, that's a good shot. This is what I did for the government. There's 30 head of mules right there.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
And I'm carrying 2,000 pounds of concrete up to, because an avalanche washed away a ranger station. We had to pack. And that first mule, that's Pete. That's the guy that was like my dude.
Gotcha.
But I got 2,000 pounds of concrete on there.
Tim, did you ever have any mules kind of fall off the mountain ever? You see it in
Well,
movies.
it wasn't a mule, it was a horse that did it. Yeah, his name was, oh shit, what was his name? It began with an R. He fell off a cliff. He pulled back at the wrong time and fell off a 500-foot cliff. And yeah, he died. It was really bad.
To be expected.
There. That's me at 36 years old and this film documentary crew.
No kidding.
And that horse died 10 minutes later. He stepped on a rock wrong and tore his hoof off. And I was at a lope on him. And I looked down and his hoof was gone. He's running on his cannon boat. And that was a sad, sad day.
Oh, man.
It was a really sad day.
Tim, I was just thinking, if you want to send.
Read that?
Yeah, there you go. If you want to send any of these photos, I can put them on the screen so people can see them.
Well, when you're ready, yeah, you know.
Yeah. So after the interview, anything you want to show, send them my way, and then I can sync it up so people can kind of see.
Got a picture of a cougar nesting in a tree. Kidding.
Kidding.
Funny.
Yeah, she's not old enough. That's the joke.
Yeah.
She's not actually a cougar. Yeah. Another decade or two, then she might qualify.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
yes.
Tim, you showed me a bear picture there. You got it. Have you had any encounters with those?
They always walk away. I haven't had any bad dealings. I usually stand my ground and then I just stand and watch. And I had a pretty good one, 600-pound bear, but we're probably I don't know 70 yards away from each other, and I just stand there. I had guests with me because I was doing a horseback ride.
Yeah.
And I said, "Don't move." And the bear walks off. Here, that's the cat that ate my dog. That guy is 6'3". That's a 200-pound cat.
That's a big cat, right?
We have those guys around here. And so I was pretty mad, and so we found him.
Yeah, those things are terrifying.
Oh, that's the picture I wanted to put on that's the one I wanted to put on there. That was taken by the Smithsonian Magazine, but I didn't it out.
Whatever. I'll link that article in the description of the video so folks can read. There's a great Smithsonian article.
All that stuff's in my website or something. It's all there.
Yeah, I'll put some links up there so folks can check out your website and they can read some of these articles too. That.
Do you ever go to that show in Des Moines, that Deer Classic, and usually in March every year?
I have not. Sounds like I need to go.
Familiar. I've seen thousands of faces, but you got a familiar face, so.
I don't know. Yeah, no, haven't been. Love to
Nice
go.
teeth, man. You got nice teeth.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Come on. You son of a bitch.
My cousin's a dentist.
Mm, how convenient.
Yeah, it works out. Actually, I haven't been to him as my dentist in like a decade though.
Uh,
But yeah, he put me on the right path. We'll say that.
Amen, bro.
Amen.
Amen.
Well, Tim, I have to ask because you brought up Jeremiah Johnson early on, and I love that movie. I can't. I talk about it constantly. I even have merchandise in my shop in my it's called the
Oh, right on.
Man vs. History Outfitters, where I have a couple Jeremiah Johnson things in there, sort of homages to the movie. Um,
Very
it's
powerful.
man, it
It got
is,
me to
isn't it?
doing what I'm doing, man.
I know that's why I thought you seem like somebody who's definitely been impacted by that movie. I was definitely impacted by that movie, and it's one that I think a lot of younger folks haven't seen
It's
because
amazing. I tell people that. I say, you ever seen Jeremiah Johnson? And the young folks, no, never have. I said, you got homework tonight. And when they see it, they'll relate.
yeah, I think so. I think there's so much to it. He just yeah, that's good. I like it.
That's the way I feel up here. You know, when I first
Bear
saw the
Claw
movie,
Chris
I
Lapp,
was,
right?
say that again.
I said Bear Claw Chris Lapp. Isn't that his name
Oh,
in that?
yeah. Well,
He's great.
his name is Richard Greer.
Yep.
No,
Yeah, I
is it
think that's
right?
right. Yeah, that's right.
Well,
The actor.
when I first saw the movie, I was Robert Redford. And
Sure.
now I'm 61 years old and I'm this old crusty guy, you know? Sure you can skin a grizz, Pilgrim?
Skin him as fast as you can get him.
Yeah. Yep, I'll bring you another. But
Oh,
when he
so good.
says, was it worth the trouble? And Robert River says, what
What
trouble?
trouble?
He goes,
Yeah.
you come far, Pilgrim.
Yep.
And now that's the way I feel about the movie because I was that kid,
Yeah.
you know, 33 years ago. And now I'm the old guy saying, man, I don't know if I'd do that if I were you. Then you follow it up with, boy, I'll bet that hurt.
Yep. Yep. No, there's a lot to it. I think it's hard to watch that movie and not want to be in the shoes of Jeremiah, where you have that opportunity. You're young, you enter the West, you enter the woods, and you kind of, it's total freedom. It's the frontier, and
Yeah.
there's unlimited possibilities, but there's
And
danger as
unlimited ways
well.
to die.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Unlimited
that's the thing
ways
is
to die. You got to be smart. I mean, I live by myself on top of a mountain right now, and I've been up here for 20 years. And you got to move smart. Everything you do has got to be because I mean, I cut my leg with a chainsaw one time. I've fallen off of horses. I've done lots of fallen trees on me, and stuff happens. And you got to think through things because nowadays society is like, oh, it's your fault I'm hurt. Well, fuck that.
Yeah.
I mean, you did it to yourself, and you got to figure everything out for yourself up here.
Yeah.
No one's going to bail you out. And I've learned that over the years I've been on this earth. And it's like, I mean, slip on the ice, you break a hip, all kinds of things can happen. And it's so, and no one's going to know because I live in the middle of the woods. No one's going to know if I'm dead. And I know that now. I mean, I move slower. I move more deliberately. I make everything I do. Okay, if I do this, what's going to happen? My father, before he died, told me one thing. And if you could record anything, listen to this. He said, son, whatever you do, think consequences.
Yeah.
That's everything. If I do this, what's going to happen?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big advocate. I talk about it actually quite a bit on my own channel, and particularly it comes up in interviews about self-sufficiency and personal responsibility and how important
Bingo.
it is and how rare it is today, for that matter.
Well, people don't think that way. They're entitled. They're this, they're that, They don't, I mean, what I've always done, and I live here, used to be the norm. It's not the norm anymore. Everyone's in a city. Everyone's got all the other stuff going, Civilization has robbed people of their basic instincts for survival. If they can't turn a faucet or flip a light switch, they're lost.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's funny you say that, Tim. I told you I went to high school up in Winter Park, right? So up in the mountains.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So not
I used to do
terribly.
pack trips over there.
Yeah, I was gonna say not terribly far from you. But I spent a lot of time. I should also mention, because we didn't get a
15
chance.
miles to be exact.
That's
By
awesome.
horse.
We didn't get a chance to. We talked a little bit before the interview, but I didn't get to mention everything. So my parents ran a camp in Iowa. So where I grew up on the Iowa-Minnesota border. So I grew up in the woods. That's where I spent all my time. And so when we moved to Winter Park, it was great because it was the woods, but just a completely different type of woods. And of course, you know, it's the woods that you see in the movies. It's the woods from Jeremiah Johnson. Like that's where you want to go. And, you know, as a young man, you want to go west. And I spent a lot of time then in Colorado up in the woods. As soon as I moved there, that was it. And I built a log cabin up there in high school, up outside of Winter Park. And so I spent a lot of time out there. And I remember one night we heard a gunshot, and it wasn't hunting season. And we heard it out in the woods, and it was me and my buddy who built the cabin with me. And I remember we were both kind of like, "Oh, that's weird, right? Like that shouldn't." That's
the wrong noise right now.
Yeah. Like that. It's not the right time, and it's at night. It's in the middle of the night, and you know you don't hunt in the middle of the night. That doesn't make any sense, right?
Was it suicide?
Turns out, yeah. So turns out we found out the next day when we got back to town that there was a hunter, and he was city guy, and he came up to hunt as far as we could tell, and he got lost. And they pieced this together after the fact, but he got lost, and they think he just freaked out and he got spooked. And and that he
well, so then you've been to Tabernash. You go up to Meadow Creek Reservoir.
Oh, yeah.
That's where I would do my pack trips. I start from my side, which is Peaceful Valley. And then we do a 3-day pack trip. We end up at Meadow Creek Reservoir to have a truck and trailer waiting there. We'd have lobster. We'd have horseback rides. You know, it was the most incredible. I love Meadow Creek Reservoir.
Nice.
You know where I'm talking.
Yeah. Tabernash. So I live in Winter Park, but I also lived in Granby for a while. So
cool.
Tabernash, as you know, it's smack dab in the middle. So it's it's a tiny podunk town. It's not much to it.
There's nothing there. There's like a wide spot in the road in that county plow building right there by the tracks.
Yeah. There's absolutely nothing. I think there's a post office. I think it's still there. I assume it's still operational.
Maybe. I've given you a bunch of my real core stories of what I'm doing and where I'm at. And now it's like I'm 61 years old and I've seen a lot of things. I'll never say I've seen it all, because don't you ever say that. Nope. Ever. There's too much shit out there. But I've had a fantastic life, and all I want to do is after my family was killed, my motto was, how many days can I pull this off? And then I want to slip through life having a blast with nobody noticing. Yeah. But on the other side of the coin, you never know how you're going to touch people. I've run thousands of people, thousands of hunters, thousands of this, thousands of that. And you never know. I mean, I'm 61, and you get people coming back from 20 years ago saying, "Hey, Tim, because of you, I'm doing yada, yada, whatever it is." And you never know how you touch people.
No, absolutely not. I experienced some stuff similar in teaching, where I'll have a student that will go through a decade ago, and then I'll hear from them out of the blue, and it turns out that I, was a force that I mean, literally changed their direction in life, and they did this because of.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild, right? It's crazy.
You never know. How old are you?
41.
41. So you're a 1980 model?
1981.
81.
Yep, just like a DeLorean.
Right on. Yeah. In 81, I started my career at Celestial Seasonings. That was fun.
Yeah, how was that? I always think of it. They always have good tea.
Yeah, they got all kinds of cool stuff. And back then, it was a big party place. I worked the night shift as a material handler. I was a fork truck driver. I'd feed the machines all the tea and the wax paper and the boxes and everything they needed. And at the other end of the line, I'd grab all the finished product and load it on trailers and we'd go off somewhere in the world, from France to Europe to all over America. But it had a great stereo system in the place, so I'd always listen to music. And we smoked pot back then. Don't tell anybody. Better now.
Have you been to Boulder, Tim?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say things. Yeah, you can tell everybody nowadays. I know.
Yeah. I had to keep it quiet for the longest time.
Yeah, not anymore though. You're all right.
But I'll tell you, when you're in the saddle and you take a little puff on a one hitter and you ride in the woods and the mountains, it's religious.
Yeah, I always, you know what? That's a funny thing is I've always found the woods in general to be religious on their own, but I can't imagine adding in something that kind of
just be more receptive, more alert. I mean,
remove.
You got to come out here sometime. You're only in Iowa. You should come over and see this place.
I'd love to.
I'll double dare you.
Yeah. No, I tell you what though, I'll be coming back out, and I'll be coming back out there this summer. And
you got to see this place. I have my opinion, of course, but I have seen many, many things, and I believe what I'm doing now is an absolute refined way of doing that stuff with no drama, super simple, not hard. Even though you live in the middle of the woods, you learn, don't do this, do that. I may not know what does work, but I damn sure know what doesn't.
Yep. We do a lot of fishing trips, my family and I, my dad and I in particular, but with my friends, and we try to take somebody new every year up with us. So we go up to this place in northern Canada, just south of Hudson Bay. It's in the middle of absolutely nowhere. We love it. But it's fun is that when you take a new guy out there, there's a million little things you do. And for a new person, they don't understand why you do all the things the way you do them. Right. And you think, oh, well, that's not efficient, or why don't you just do it this way? And it's a funny series of lessons that they're like, oh, and they'll do something and be like, wow, that was a disaster.
I get it now.
Now I get it. Okay. That's why
the reason we do it this way is because, We
had a guy, I love him to death, one of my friends, he came out and he had this great idea where he's like, all right, I'm going to gas up. We have these Lund boats. So they're like 14-foot Lunds.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to gas up these boats for us for the day. We're like, great. Cause we try to divide up the chores and everything. And he thought, all right, I'm going to gas up the boat. I'm going to put gas in the tank, but not remove the tank from the boat. Because you're supposed to detach it, you set it on the dock and you fill it up, and then you put it back and you reattach it. But he was like, oh no, well, why would you do that step? That doesn't make any sense. So I'll just fill it up in the boat. So he gets in the boat, he opens it up, starts filling it up. And of course it's spilling, it's the boat's moving, he's spilling gasoline, and he's like, oh, whatever, it'll be fine. And I tell you, as God's honest truth, Tim, we couldn't stand in the boat. It was so slippery from the fuel, the lubrication of the oil gas mix, that we couldn't even stand in the boat to fish that day. We were constantly trying to scrub it out, and of course it doesn't come out. And so we're in our rubber boots and we're trying to fish and we're slipping and sliding all day, and we're like, geez, man, we're like, it's a simple, that's why
this is why.
Off. Yeah, it's not a big deal, but that's why we do it. Now
why we do things this way.
And I'm sure because I'm not familiar with horses. I don't have a lot of experience, but I'm sure that there would be a million things that you would sort of correct me on and be like, listen,
I'd say you could do it that way, but here's what'll happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right on.
I don't want to get kicked by a horse or a mule for that matter. I'd rather just ride and enjoy the experience.
No, horses are people, they all have a personality. You never know. I don't know. I've been lucky. I've never been really hurt by a horse. I got kicked one time, but I was just doctoring a horse and he was just mad that day. But other than that, it's just, there's just those subtle things that you you can't put them in writing. It's just like, I wouldn't do that, and here's why.
Yeah.
But you don't know. There's so many things that you don't know how to convey this or that, because it's like, why are you doing it that way? I mean, if someone walked around me all day long and said, why'd you do it that way? I'd have an answer. But there's too many. There's too many things. You just move the way you move, and things happen the way you happen. 100%. You got to know where your body is, know where your feet are when you're working around a horse. Don't get stepped on. It's not their fault. They're horses. But there's so many things that are just so subtle, and yet they'll hurt you if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. Tim, I have to ask you this because I watch a lot of Western movies. Have you ever jumped off of a building onto your horse? Have you ever attempted that?
Not intentionally.
Not intentionally.
No, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, wouldn't you? I'd imagine you damage the horse and your reproductive organs simultaneously.
No, I wouldn't do that. I've never been in that much of a hurry.
Yeah, that makes sense. Tim, when you whistle for your horse, does it listen? Does it come to you?
No.
No,
I'm not that bogus. Good. I mean, my horses know me, but I'm on thousands of acres, Yeah. If I've got grain and they know they're going to they know when they're going to be fed, and that's the times you time to catch them. If you go out there in an oddball time of the day, they're going to be out doing what they're doing. I've got friends that women are wonderful, and they can call their horse and they come running. I've never really cared that much. I don't catch horses with grain or anything like that. I just walk out and purposely say, hey, look, we got to work now. And they accept it, and off we go. But I've had horses that will do that stuff. I mean, but on the average, it's all a timing thing. Here's a good one. Timing has a lot to do with the outcome of a rain dance.
Yes. I would imagine that is true.
It's really good.
I would imagine so.
So, horses are my tools for what I do, and we know what we're doing. When we're with each other, we work, and when we're not with each other, go do your thing. I leave you alone. It's a ranch. It's a ranch thing.
Yeah. They're tools of work.
Yeah.
Right. For your business.
If you watch Yellowstone, when Jimmy was out at the 4.6s, remember that on the Yellowstone?
Yep.
And he came back saying, he had the old man sitting there talking with him, who was a really famous old man horseman. There's that, and that's absolutely true. These are your tools. You work with them. I mean, there's a reason why you got hung for stealing a horse. That was your partner, Yeah. And that stuff's true. There's a lot of drama to that show, but there's a lot of good stuff to that show. But that stuff, when Jimmy went down to the 4.6s down there in Texas and learned to be a real cowboy, that is what it's all about.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, that's a good show. You touched on it earlier too. I mentioned it that I was actually watching it last night, my wife and I. Yeah, it's cool to see that Western culture still being put out there on a really popular show. You get kind of lulls in really good Western movies, and I know it's a series, but at this point, like, a lot of people are just watching movies from their home. They're not even going to the theater anymore. But it's really cool then to see something like a modern Western.
And what really kills me is Kevin Costner's a real liberal, and yet he comes across as a real red state kind of guy in the show.
Yeah,
which is cool.
yeah.
But that's middle America. I mean, you got Los Angeles, you got New York and Atlanta, and those guys are driving the whole damn country, but the center of the country is what it's all about. And most people feel like us, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm from flyover state, as they call it, right?
Yeah.
Most people can't even identify Iowa on a map, I'd imagine. They could.
That's me nuts.
Iowa, Idaho, Ohio.
Yeah.
Which are you, the potato state?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No kidding.
But they're all different.
Let's see what's going to happen. I'm going to be this way. I'm already there. I'm in the fourth quarter. I've done this my whole life. If I can pull off another year or another 10 years, I'd be stoked.
Yeah.
But if I don't, I've had the most incredible life ever.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. It sounds like you got a really good outlook. I love hearing it, particularly given your experiences. You know, it's funny, if you don't mind me saying, Tim, I think that it's interesting how some people who experience some of the stuff you experienced when you were a kid, you know, with your losing your parents, that's the kind of thing that, yeah, like that's the kind of thing that it can crush people or it can kind of hone them and make them stronger, right? It's kind of neat to see that you didn't allow that to be the thing that destroyed you. You allowed it to you turned it into fuel almost, and we're able to harness that for positive.
The word no to me doesn't mean no. It means next opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way of looking at it.
Enough said, huh?
That's really cool. I like that. Do you have any other favorite Westerns or anything that any movies? I know Jeremiah Johnson, you watch Yellowstone. Do you have any other ones you'd recommend?
What? All right, I'm going to tell you one because I haven't watched this in years.
Yeah.
But The Missouri Breaks with Jack Nicholson and Marlon Brando.
I haven't seen it.
I watched that about a month ago. And that movie, have you ever heard of it? It's called The Missouri Breaks. You watch it. It's your homework.
Okay.
But everything in that movie, horse-wise, is frickin' the most accurate I've ever seen. They tail tie the horses. They do so much stuff on horseback. The way they pack the mules. I mean, I can dissect these things and see it. And that movie is accurate. The Missouri Breaks.
Okay.
Marlon Brando, Jack Nicholson.
Awesome.
You got homework, pal.
I'm surprised you named one that I haven't seen. I thought I had you. Whatever you named, I've seen it. I could quote it, but I don't even know that movie.
Ta-da.
So I'm excited. I'll have to track down that movie.
The Missouri Breaks. I think that's the name of it. It's Marlon Brando and Jack Nicholson. But you watch that and watch all the horse stuff, and they're freaking accurate.
Yeah, there's obviously some movies get some things right. Some movies get a lot right. A lot of movies get a lot wrong. And I look at it from a historical point of view. And so it's interesting hearing you talk about it from a hands-on point of view, from working with these animals and
working with livestock. You bet.
Yeah.
And you think about it. I mean, they've been making movies since the 30s. I mean, we got almost 100 years of this stuff, and we haven't seen jack shit about anything that's going on. But there's some good ones. That's a good one. Yeah.
Were you a fan of Open Range? Because I know that's a good cattle drive movie.
Robert Duvall.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. I like that one as well.
There's that one, the Appaloosa something or other, or the
Appaloosa.
Appaloosa was one, and that was a good one. They're okay, but they don't mimic like that. Missouri Breaks they had some serious horsemen on that one.
Yeah,
that knew what they were doing.
I recommend Lonesome Dove quite a bit. It's one of my favorites.
One of the packers when I worked for Rocky Mountain National Park, he was in the Lonesome Dove movie.
Oh, really?
In the scene with a bunch of Indians around that gambling table, he was one of the. That's another story, but I can tell you that later. But he was in that movie, and that Lonesome Dove was good.
Yeah. No, I'm a fan of that one. I liked it. I think they made some sort of sequel or something. We'll see. We'll see. All right. Well, Tim, thank you so much for being with us today. Really appreciate hearing the stories. Love to have you come back and tell some more of these tales for us next time. So thank you, my friend.
Copy that. Take care.
Will do.
Thank you folks for watching. If you guys want to further support my efforts, you can do so on Patreon or buy some gear for the modern frontier for the Man vs. History Outfitter shop. You can find those links down in the description. Before I go, I just want to make sure that I thank my Patreon patrons, Special thank you to my gold tier patrons, The Innocents, Ashley Gertensen, Hurtin Wade, Man vs. Moose, Bryce V, Cyber, Will S. Baker, Joshua Bale, Rich Christensen, Comrade Krieger, Sean Hatfield, Blake Cram, PBC98, Joshua Horton, Dawson E, Zonk Breezes, Noah Ovens, David Perkins, Sneaky Ninja, Noah 5943, Jigsaw, Your Pal Mitch, Old Hognose, Coco Rockout, Occam's Ghost, Reese Yerby, Ari Bacalers, Mythical Beast 60, and Gavin Abernathy. Also want to make sure that I thank my silver and bronze tier patrons. Thank you folks for your ongoing support. Let's keep growing. Let's keep doing what we're doing. We'll see you all next time.